to Cinemavino. It's good to have you guys here with us.
It's good to be here.
Yeah. Our sci-fi series is going to wrap up with one of my all-time classic sci-fi movies, Total Recall.
Recall.
And yeah, this is a 1990 sci-fi flick. We're doing an unusual wine for this particular podcast. This is L'Ecole Semillon, 2022 Semillon from Columbia Valley, Washington. So this is going to be a dry
L'Ecole
white Bordeaux style.
Mm-hmm.
15 point. No, that's 13.
Yeah. 15 on this bad boy.
You don't see a lot of white Bordeaux style wines in the United States, like blends of Semillon, Sauvignon Blanc. This does have a little bit of Sauvignon Blanc in it. Dry, kind of lean, kind of light bodied, lightly fruity.
Kind of grassy.
Yeah. Very food friendly. I think this would go well with like a nice light picnic style meal, light salad sandwich.
I like that.
Yeah. But it also good standalone, easy drinking white wine.
It has like a tartness to it that's throwing me off.
Yeah, it's different for sure. This Semillon's not a grape you see a lot outside of France, outside of Bordeaux.
It's like eating cold grapes in my kitchen at midnight.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you ever freeze grapes? Pop those bad boys?
Fuck yeah.
Hell yeah.
Little ice cubes.
Yeah.
Free ice cubes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. So yeah, this is about a $20 bottle of wine. And yeah, it's a unique deal. They don't make a lot of it. They make about 5,000 cases a year. I would define that as a pretty low production in the scheme of things. You look at other white wines, they make like, Kendall Jackson probably makes 300,000 or 400,000 cases of Chardonnay. So, this is a little off the beaten path. So if you're looking for something a little bit different, a lighter body white, look for the L'Ecole Semillon.
Just like us. Lighter bodied.
Yeah. Light to medium bodied.
Don't everyone look at me and giggle. Fuck out of here.
So we're looking at...
You use a lot of tannins.
Yeah, no, built to age. Total Recall. It came out in 1990.
Built to age. You and me both, brother.
This came out June 1st, 1990. Yeah. Almost 25 years ago. Almost 35 years ago.
Yeah.
What am I thinking?
Shit. June 1st, 1990?
Yeah, 35 years ago. Crazy.
That's the year I was born.
There you go. But this is before you.
This is about 2 months before I was born.
Crazy.
Yep.
So this...
or was it?
No. So this had a budget of around $80 million. This was rumored to be one of the most expensive movies ever made when it came out.
$80 million?
$80 million. Big old budget. A lot of practical effects. A lot of miniatures.
Yeah. Good practical effects.
This movie was kind of at that crossroads between like the modern CGI effects of like Terminator 2, True Lies, like the stuff that came afterwards, and the miniature effects of like the Star Wars, Star Trek movies of the 80s. This was kind of in that in-between time. And so there is a limited CGI, but there's a lot of miniatures, a lot of matte paintings, a lot of real-world effects in this movie. And so at this point in time, to make the movie they wanted, it was very expensive. Plus, Schwarzenegger had a pretty big paycheck, so there's that too. I would bet probably 10 to 15 million of that 80 went to him directly.
Really? Where did this fall compared to Kindergarten Cop?
Same year.
Fuck yeah.
Damn, it was?
That's a movie.
It was a good year for the governor.
It was a good year for Schwarzenegger.
So this was based on the novel We Can Remember It For You Wholesale by Phillip K. Dick, who also did another movie that we've covered in this podcast, Blade Runner, at this point.
What's the title? We Can Do It For You.
We Can Remember It For You Wholesale.
Okay.
Which was from, I believe, 1966. And it really was a pioneering thing for the time of like the idea of implanted memories or false memories.
And I would say, like, in the film, I thought that was so a cool thing when he's on the bus watching the TV. It's like, oh, you want to go to Mars? You want to do this? It's like, he's like, too old? We can put it in there for you. And I was like, damn, that's a good idea.
Good idea.
It was like, shit.
And so the basic plot of the movie has Schwarzenegger as Quaid, Douglas Quaid, who is like an everyday construction worker who feels like a weird pull to go to Mars. He's married to a very attractive Sharon Stone. And, and of course, in this bleak future, they have a situation where the best way to escape is in your own mind. It's to escape, to take a vacation within.
Can't afford to take a vacation? Have the memory of a vacation implanted into your brain.
But furthermore, you got to imagine that the natural world has probably been ripped to pieces. And so there's probably nowhere you can go that's not like stripped clean or like covered in oil derricks in the future. So it's like, there's probably not a lot of places, like, for example, on the earth where you could go, like the mountains and everything. I picture them as just like bleak, just covered in oil fires. So it's like
like the Dredd or Judge Dredd kind of universe.
Yeah.
Where it's just like mega cities, just these giant megalopolises where there's no actual like green space.
Yeah.
Megalopolis.
Well, it's like I remember in the novel for Blade Runner, which is also Philip K. Dick, it's like the big status symbol is to own a real animal.
Yeah. Do androids dream of electric sheep?
Yeah. It's like if you have a real pet, that you're rich because, everybody.
It's a status symbol.
Because most of the actual animals have died out.
Yeah.
And so.
And all their food is like genetically like, hey, this should taste like cow.
Yeah. And so the rich people have like the real like pets and owls and birds and whatever. It's like the poor people have like the replicants, like the robot versions of dogs and cats and whatever. So
we're going to have this entire conversation again.
I know.
Yeah.
And again, it's like time traveling because we will.
Or we already did.
Yeah. It's confusing. But in this story, you got to imagine like the real vacations you could take are probably pretty limited, like where you can go somewhere that's attractive. So we have to manufacture stuff and put it in your brain, So Quaid wants to go to Mars. And so he goes to Recall in this company and they start to implant these memories within him. And then there's a malfunction. He ends up going into some sort of psychosis, wakes up, and now, he's in this, espionage spy, James Bond sci-fi mystery where it's like, he has to get to Mars. He has to help the Martian people, the Martian resistance against this cruel corporate overlord who wants to exploit them. He's got a girlfriend. He starts to question what was the construction worker real? Is the spy, what Hauser, whatever his name is that guy real?
Was anything ever real?
Yeah. And what are we but the sum of our memories? It's like
what is the nature of reality
and the very nature of sentience? It's like, what are we if not the sum of our memories? It's like how much of our identity is tied to the memories we make. And in the realm, it's like, but it's a theme.
No kung fu.
It's a theme you'll see in a lot of sci-fi movies, like The Matrix or like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. It's like if you take those memories away, what do you have left?
Well, and I think that's a theme that's being explored thoroughly in Severance. Yeah. You mentioned Severance on something else earlier, but yeah, it's the idea of if you don't remember, what you went throughout the middle of the day, and you don't have you have two separate consciousness that are experiencing two different things. Are you two different people?
Yeah. And it's like Blade Runner, the Sean Young character, she has a very existential crisis in that movie when she is told that all these memories that she thinks are her
also implanted memories.
Those aren't real.
Yeah.
Those are somebody else's memories that were given to you. And so that, of course, freaks her out. So that's a very common theme in sci-fi is that, how much are we tied to our experiences, and how we perceive those experiences. So it's a very heady concept for a Schwarzenegger movie. It's a very deep concept for like a typical of that time. I think, but this is like Kindergarten Cop, Commando, all this other stuff coming out now. This is a very deep thinking science fiction.
Because when was Predator? 88?
87, 88, somewhere in there.
Okay.
Forgot to get to the chopper.
Get to the chopper.
And so basically, Quaid has to unravel the memory of the mystery of his identity. He has to unravel who he really is. And of course, spoiler alert, they don't really give you a firm idea at the end. They leave it to you to guess. It could be either way, and it's up to you. Ironically, it's the same mystery that at the end of Blade Runner, of what is Harrison Ford? Who is he? So. Especially, at least the definitive Ridley Scott cut that leaves it deliberately ambiguous. There's evidence either way.
God, there's fucking 7 different cuts.
Yeah,
Ridley Scott loves going back and recutting.
According to him,
he didn't. He got this is for Blade Runner,
different,
but
we'll get there.
Yeah. But anyway, so that's the base. This was a huge movie. It's a big blockbuster. I have it in my review that I'm working on right now that it sits like oil and water because you have these very dense philosophical sci-fi themes next to your typical Schwarzenegger, like one-liners and guys getting their arms ripped off and like. And I told my wife, "Damn, that's a real missed opportunity for a Schwarzenegger one-liner when the guy gets his arm ripped off. It's like, you've been disarmed."
Yeah. God, that would have been perfect.
But now they
surely he's done that in a movie somewhere. He's ripped somebody's arm off and said, "You've been disarmed."
and somebody maybe pointed that out. I said, "No, I've said that before." That was in Conan the Destroyer.
Conan, he had like 14 lines, didn't he?
Yeah, and I really hope that was one of them. So I'm curious to see what you guys thought of this. So, Tay, you went back and watched it. You've seen this before.
Yes.
What were your thoughts?
I hadn't seen it in a very, very, very long time.
Same.
I loved this film. Again, I remember, well, I take that back. I don't know if I liked it the first time I saw it, but the second time I watched it, maybe I was just in a very, very good mood. But I thought it was very well done with the story. As much action as this, I mean, there was a fight scene every 20 seconds.
Yeah.
I felt like it was like, but if you could pay attention, it was kind of a deeper thought kind of thing. And it was like, even at the very, kind of towards the very end, when like, you know, what was the body alien called? Quattro? Quarto is like, even it's like, you know, like he makes you like rethink everything. And there's like, you know, it's like, no, we created you to lead us to him. And I'm like, wait, what? And I was like, wait, you implanted that to get him to, like, God damn it. And I was like, yo.
He incepted us.
Yeah. And I was like, yo, this is an action film. Like, let's.
Demolition Man is going on here.
I was like, let's tie a bow on this. And it was like, but, you know, but going back to it was like making you think. And with Schwarzenegger, like, you're not supposed to think. You're supposed to just watch.
Yeah.
You're supposed to just see it. So that kind of threw me off. But I loved it. The special effects, as Travis was saying, I thought was very 80s. Like, I thought like mid 80s. When he said like 90, I'm like, God damn.
Yeah.
It was, but the gun scenes were I thought amazing, just because I knew what I was seen it before. I knew what I was getting into.
Yeah.
And maybe just watching this film over and over and over again, I'm just like, this film fucking is awesome. It was like, I don't know why. It has a great storyline. They just do not do it right, in my opinion. It was like because it's Schwarzenegger. Mm-hmm. And like, you're not supposed to think. Yeah. It's like when he pulls the thing out of his fucking nose, which is like just gigantic.
It's his nostril.
It's gigantic. And then, of course, like the little mouse, I'm like, man, what a great story. Like, I don't know why that.
Okay, first of all, the giant thing is it's like a quail egg, and then it opens, and there's like a little pellet inside.
Yeah.
Why the fuck did we have the giant thing? Just put the pellet up there.
It looks cool.
Yeah.
I guess.
I don't know. That shit made me laugh. But, you know, it just these with Schwarzenegger, you're not supposed to think. At least like how just a little bit of action here and there. But this was like, you know, if I kind of want to go back and see the reboot. I've heard it sucks ass, but I kind of want to see it to see like, how do they do the story in this one? Like, because I don't consider Colin Farrell to be an action hero, you know, because this one was, I think, more based on the action, but it has a really kind of interesting storyline. Like, I want to hear, again, I've already forgotten the name, but I want to hear more of this Quattro. I was like, how did he get there? What was his name?
Quaid.
Kuto?
Quato.
Cujo? It was
Quato.
Quato? Okay. It was like, I want to know more about this guy's little history. I was like,
open your mind.
You will be shocked when you see it.
Open your mind.
Yeah. But, and I did.
You know what he reminds me of? The guy from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles?
Crane?
Oh,
Crane.
yeah, Crane. Yeah.
Like the little brain inside the guy's belly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The only
the remote.
I did like the funny, like when they were shooting at the rats after he pulls it out. When it was just when they realize like, oh, it's the rat, and then for some reason he decides to shoot the rat, and then the blood splatters on the computer screen, and just repeatedly it's like, was that the one where it's like, get your ass back to Mars,
back to Mars,
back to Mars, back to Mars. I'm like, still going, huh? I was like, still going. I was like, all right. But this movie was good. I don't think I can go above a 7, only because it's like I still think it was very tight, but I don't know if I can go above the 7 just because, I mean, maybe next year, or if we ever do it again, I might be like, oh yeah, it's a fucking 8 or a 9. Mm-hmm. Just because it did feel a little, for an action film, it felt like a little, like, thought heavy, like the actual storyline was heavy.
Yeah.
And maybe I couldn't, maybe because it's just Schwarzenegger, I just could not get into it because I'm just like, well, he's about to shoot somebody. He's trying to get Poonani every 5 seconds. Like, anytime there's a girl,
can you blame him?
No.
Yeah.
And it was like, and
if
also,
you look like Schwarzenegger in the 90s, come on.
And I don't know if it was a little homage, or if Jurassic Park did an homage, when Miss Stone's trying to get all freaky deaky, and she's distracting him, and he realizes that. What does he say? He's like, clever girl.
Oh,
and I was like, oh, I was like, yeah, I was like, hey, and I was like, all right. But anyway, so a 7, but I actually love this film a lot. It was good acting. The storyline was great. It just, Schwarzenegger just threw me off the whole time.
Yeah. It's got strong nostalgia vibes to it.
Yeah.
Travi?
I did not rewatch this movie, but I've seen it before. I cannot, in good conscience, give it a score, but I do remember it was one of the last Arnold movies I watched that was from the 90s. Like, I was not allowed to watch this when I was a kid, I guess.
Boobs.
Probably. And all the weird violence and stuff. But I don't know how this one, like was split under the radar from me.
Was
but,
your
like,
household
I had to go back.
a violence household or a boob household?
Well,
Like, which was the bigger issue for you?
like, I got to watch RoboCop when I was a kid,
Boob.
but my mom was
It was violence for my house.
My mom did not want me to watch Married with Children or That 70s Show.
Same.
Like, and I think
That
it was
70s
because,
show came out in early 2000s.
well, I think it was because my brother was 9 years younger than me, and he was also at the dinner table. She was like, "Can we change this?" So it wasn't that I was not
This is
allowed to watch
crass.
it, but I think
Travis.
that my brother was there. I distinctly, I was like, "Are you kidding? Is that 70?" Anyway, So I went back and I finally watched this, and I remember the big things I remembered were the special effects, like his eyes popping out of his head. Like at the end, I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
I remember seeing the 3 tits. I was like, this is awesome.
Well, and the fat
And
lady
then-
at customs. The fat lady at customs are great.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's the same kind of
I've quoted that many times since and randomly to my wife who watched it with me. It's like 2 weeks. 2 weeks.
And then Quarto or Quattro, whatever.
Quattro.
his name.
It's Quato.
Like,
I just thought it was
Quattro.
look, just the idea of like a crazy mutant baby embryo with like psychic mind powers, that sentence alone will get me to pay $16 for a ticket. I'm like, yes,
And
get my ass in that seat.
Yeah.
And then
get your ass to Maz.
I remember the Sharon Stone fight was always built up a lot. Like there was the fight scene or something in the bedroom was like, oh, it's supposed to be like an actual, like a good fight scene, but steamy and sexy or something. So those are the only things I remember was the Sharon Stone fight, the 3 titties, eyes exploding, and then like the extra appendage, like trying to mind meld with people. Yeah. So, just on that, probably a 7.
Yeah. Sean?
I loved it. I'm a sucker for like old school 50s, 60s sci-fi. So like Asimov, Dick, obviously. They explored so many funky ideas. Like Asimov was really big into ideas of just like these short stories, just quirky sci-fi ideas of like, oh, what if robots were our slaves? And then they also were just like becoming sentient, and then they were not our slaves anymore. It's like, okay, cool. That's the entire plot of iRobot.
Yeah.
The Foundation obviously was the basis of both Star Wars and Dune. Because there was the whole thing where Frank Herbert was mad that Dune was being ripped off by Star Wars, and then George Lucas was like, okay, well, we're both ripping off Isaac Asimov, because Asimov and Dick both were like writing the best sci-fi stories just with very little exposition, just like these like quirky ideas. They put out so much good stuff that it's fodder for movies for like the next 4 decades. Mm-hmm. This is one of the great movies. I mean, it's like you said, this is a little heady for a Schwarzenegger movie.
No.
But like, it is a really well thought out movie of like, okay, it's a little mindfucky. You get a little bit of that. Like, okay, is he just being like, did they implant the memories and he's just living out this like psychosis, or is this actually happening? And they like hit that memory block. No. They actually make you doubt it. Just the way they make the movie is you don't know for about half the movie if he's actually seeing this through. And I think I enjoyed it a lot. It's a pretty tight, like 90-minute movie. Like, it's pretty short.
I think it's a little bit longer than that, but not
maybe.
But
like,
I had to watch it with commercials.
It's less than an hour and a half.
Did you watch
Or it's less
the
than 2
Spanish
hours.
version of it?
No, I got the American.
Because it was like
Spanish only.
for like Freevee or whatever. Like was the Pluto TV?
Pluto, yeah.
It was the Spanish cut of it. It was crazy.
El Todo Recall.
Yeah. But Cuerdo de yeah.
Con quattro.
It is 113 minutes. So
Yeah, it's less than 2 hours.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a tight. That's 113 minutes of a lot of content. Like they cover a lot of ground, and I think it's a really good movie for what it is. Like you said, it's a Schwarzenegger movie that would typically be a lot more brainless action, and they put a lot of brain into it without putting a lot of like overly complex dialogue. They gave Schwarzenegger a lot of dialogue. There is like quite a bit of speaking and like quite a bit of lines. I think this is where Schwarzenegger hits his stride. It's like 1990 is his peak.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
Yeah. So I think the graphics are good
for the time.
I mean, because like practical effects kind of went away after this.
Yeah.
You know, they started getting more into like
with Schwarzenegger's next movie, they went away.
Yeah. They started throwing in like shitty CGI. So I think enjoying the practical effects kind of brings me back a little bit. You know, I enjoy it just for like what it is. Yeah, it's obviously like claymation type of effects, but I enjoy it a lot.
Yeah,
I'd give this like a 7.5 or an 8.
Yeah, I'm probably a strong 7.
Yeah,
I think I fall in the rest of the group. I've always liked this movie. I like the kind of silliness to it. You know, I like the humor of it.
Camp.
Yeah, there is a campy element to it. And I think that's the part that really stands out to me.
It's campy, but it still explores those complex themes.
It does. It manages. And if you can appreciate the kind of oil and water aspect of those two parts of the movie, you'll have a better time with it. Of like, you know, the deep cerebral sci-fi elements don't necessarily sit well next to the, you know, the 3 boob, you know, situation and like the, you know, the Johnny Cab and like all, they don't necessarily, the humor doesn't sit well necessarily next to it, but they both kind of work on their own terms. You know, this movie kind of works on 2 separate fronts. And I do enjoy it, and that I enjoy both of them, but I especially like, I watched this time, I was like, this movie has a definite streak of silliness to it, and I enjoyed it, you know, in that sense. So the villain is, the bad guys are over the top on how bad they are. You know, they're just, you know, it's that typical 80s, early 90s, like just awful.
You know they're bad guys because they carry briefcases.
It's like the Lethal Weapon style, like the over-the-top bad guys.
Yeah.
They're diehard, like
The top.
they're not just bad. They're like, you know, off the charts bad. They're like hysterically bad. And
We just want to make all the money we can.
yeah, and
Choke them out.
then I literally like, you know, like starve them of their air kind of a thing. Like they're, you know, it's like a Dickens villain. It's like, no, just shut the air off, you know, just watch them die. And, you know, it's like, and then the guy's going to have a party later. That guy is like the villain in so many different things. The bad guy in this movie, like the main bad guy and the underling, you know, it's like they're the go-to 80s and 90s bad guys. They show up in so many.
How long does it take to suffocate? Because those people were suffocating for like
For a good long while.
Yeah.
a solid 2 days.
Yeah.
Like it was a long time before they got air back, and they were like,
Yeah.
oh, finally. It's like,
The movie.
how are you guys
I
alive?
love, you correct me if I'm wrong, but every time they show like air getting sucked out, it's always like some random 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
And then when the air comes back, it's all like, oh.
It's like random pieces of paper on a fan going out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like, oh Christ, the paper's back. Oh, I can breathe again. So, like, if I'm ever like in a space movie, I'm just going to keep it like 8.5 by 11, like by me at all
You got to have
time.
a fan with paper strands on
That's
it.
like, because
Betty.
apparently that's where oxygen comes from.
And when the people are getting sucked out, they're like sideways. And,
Oh, yeah.
you know, there's nothing subtle about it.
No.
It's like they're getting pulled through like the most intense vacuum ever.
Well, and I appreciate that this movie actually like keeps kind of true to scientific ideas of like, they have a dome.
Mhm.
You can't shoot them. There's a dome. You're going to
Yeah.
shoot the dome.
Yeah.
We're all going to get sucked out in the vacuum of space and die.
Interesting. But it hits on also real themes of like, you know, there have been ideas of terraforming Mars, that if you could simulate some sort of magnetic pole on Mars, it would terraform itself. And
Yeah, if you had some sort of like Project Genesis.
yeah. I mean,
We got CRISPR.
there you go.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed Jerry Goldsmith's music. I liked his very Rambo-esque music score that he put to it. I liked special effects. I like Sharon Stone. She makes a good villain. But yeah, it's a fun movie. You know,
It is, yeah.
You know, you get kind of a good hors d'oeuvre of the serious sci-fi themes, but you also get more so. You get lots of big action scenes, lots of one-liners. You know, lots of lots of good humor. You know, it's a fun movie to watch. You know,
I might not have gotten to watch this movie. Well, wait, no. Basic Instinct came out in like 96.
92.
Yeah.
92?
Mhm.
Okay. Well, I might not have gotten to watch this movie because of Sharon Stone in Basic Instinct.
Yeah.
Beaver.
And that gratuitous beaver shot.
Now that's a band name. Gratuitous Beaver.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of Loaded Weapon 1. Where there's was it Kathy Ireland doing the turn in the chair, and then they just have like a little stuffed beaver smoking. And it's called, and it flashes on the screen, gratuitous beaver shot.
Gratuitous Beaver.
That's a great fucking movie.
And then think about Naked Gun, where was it Priscilla Presley's going up the ladder, and you know Frank Drebin's watching like, that's nice beaver, and then she gets down, hands him a stuffed beaver.
It's like, thank you, I had it stuffed.
Yeah, that's just ridiculous.
What great knockers. Why, thank you, doctor.
But yeah, I would give this a good strong 7. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So, it doesn't check the boxes that Blade Runner did for me, but it's good. I'm glad we went back and watched it. It's fun. So, but this has been another episode of Cinemavino, and we thank you guys very much. We got Travis Budd.
We thank you very much.
Sean Jordan.
We thank you very much.
Taylor Owens.
Yo.
T.O. My name is Todd Wofford.
Thank you very much.
Great movies, only drunker. We will see you guys next time.